My name's Marcel de Rooy. I've been a cameraman 34 years. There was an element of respect for me and the job I was doing. Well, that's one of the things that's changed a lot over the years. There seems to be a trend for the general public to think of us more as vultures or Channel 10 media scum. What are you doing here? What do you want?
My name's Sean Perry. I've been a cameraman for 30 years. Yeah, probably about 30 years. It was literally cowboys. It was get to the job as fast as possible. We had a very tight relationship with the police. Yeah, it was pretty crazy when you think about it. We were like 20-year-old guys armed with fuel-injected Falcons and released into the night.
I think a lot of people do see a man with a camera as invading everybody's privacy all the time. And it's not really the case. Or they think that, I'm just doing it for some prurient interest in it, but it's not. I'm just earning a wage to pay my bills like everybody else.
There is so many misconceptions. I had a lady come up to me at one of those Save the Earth rallies. I can't think what they're called now, but they block the roads and do their thing. And I got there early and it was just me and her, and she was sort of following me around and talking to me. And she said, "Oh, look, I never talk to the media." But then she says to me, "The reason I don't talk to the media is that they interviewed me and then they cut all the words and they moved them around and they changed it all and made me sound like I said something completely different." And I'm listening to this going, that just doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen necessarily because we have morals, but it doesn't happen because we're a busy newsroom. Even if the journalist wanted to do that, the editor probably wouldn't do it because they go, "I haven't got time for that. What are you talking about?" So that sort of stuff doesn't happen, and people have that misconception that we go to all this effort to change things around. Now, we would never go to that much effort. We're a news service. As soon as the news service is over, that day is over. You know, there really isn't very much planning forward.
I'm just a cameraman. I just take pictures and deal with the people. I don't write the stories. That's not me. I prefer to document life from people through one of these rather than the written word. Body parts, mangled people, blood, guts, traumatised people, lots of unpleasantness. It's hard to pick an individual one that has left a permanent scar or anything like that, because in 34 years I've seen so much of it that can never afford to let it affect me personally. You know, it's my job, and when I knock off work I go home.
When we first started, obviously cameras and things were something that really only professionals had. So when we went to fatal accidents, for example, they would ask us to come in and film. We had huge lights on the top of our cameras because the technology wasn't as good as it is now. Quite often when they were trying to cut someone out of a car, they would invite us in to be closer so they could use the light. So yeah, a lot of that stuff makes quite a reasonable impression on you, and particularly if you're filming dead bodies and stuff like that. Personally, I don't know about other cameramen, but me personally, I found I needed to disconnect. You're looking at a black and white viewfinder, all you're thinking is, right, I need a tight shot, I need a wide shot, and you want to get it over and done with as quickly as possible.
In the course of the job, I've seen a lot of stuff that most people, other than emergency services people, most people wouldn't have ever seen that sort of thing, and I've seen lots of it.
One of the weirdest nights I had, I went to an accident. That was amazing, because normally when you turn up to a car accident particularly, there's usually police and fire brigade, a lot of noise going on, just things are happening. This, however, it was just me, none of the other crews had turned up at that stage. And just the ambulance, no police, no fire brigade. And I set up, started filming, and all I could hear was the boop, boop, boop. And while I'm filming, I suddenly hear boo, and I'm like, wow, that guy just died. and then it was clear, boop, boop. It's like, oh my God, I just filmed that guy come back to life. So yeah, I don't think I'll ever forget that. It was a very personal thing. I mean, I was 10, 15 feet away. I wasn't in the guy's face or whatever, but it was just very surreal.
Parts of the job, seeing really unpleasant things is really unpleasant. But on a more emotional level, those death knocks are really painful.
Death knocks are very much an invasion of privacy, and the problem that occurs with death knocks is that if everybody reacted the same, and that is basically telling you to go away, and that's a pleasant way of putting it, we probably wouldn't do them. But the problem is that sometimes when we do them, people do want us to come in and film, and that's their personal choice. I mean, you can't force yourself into someone's house. I had a night with a journalist where we turned up, we were on overtime, we didn't want to do it, it was night, it was raining, and we made an agreement between us that we'd knock on three of the units, and then we'd say we'd done the whole thing. And it was a really horrible incident. It was a young lady who'd been severely raped and murdered. It was really, really horrible. So anyway, we go in to do our job, knock on the first three houses. We knock on the first house, and it's the house. And we sort of said, oh, look, look, can we interview? And they went, yes, please come in. And it was a tiny little unit. There was hardly any room at all, so we were right in these people's faces to do what we were doing. And it was horrific.
I can deal with the blood and guts, but I find it a bit harder, a bit more uncomfortable to deal with people who've just suffered some sort of trauma. I don't know how much of that sort of thing really is in the public interest. It seems a bit more of a voyeuristic type thing. Look, let's face it, news is mostly bad news. It has changed over the years. There was scope for some of the more light-hearted stuff, but it's become a serious world now, and the news bulletins that you see reflect that.
We are going to upset people, and we're just doing our job, but you've got to take that with a grain of salt or you can't work in news. And it doesn't mean you have to be a hard ass and you have to be horrible and that you don't go home some nights and think, it wasn't very good, was it? It's part of what we do.
It is a good job. It does have a lot of variety, and you just see the whole spectrum of society. You see everything about the world. I've learnt to be able to talk with people from one end of the spectrum to the other and realise that the world is full of all sorts of people and all sorts of happenings, and I'm lucky to be able to witness it.